He's a heck of a guy. He's a heck of a guy, his friend said, except he didn't use the word heck, and we were in church to boot. Let me tell you the story. I was preaching revival services. A gentleman walked in and sat in the right back corner of the church. At first glance, you could tell he had not been raised in church, and he was not really comfortable being there. He was seated in a chair with his back literally against the back wall. He couldn't have gotten any more isolated in the sanctuary if he tried. He was a lifelong friend of the pastor. The pastor had been working with him and witnessing to him about Jesus for quite some time. He had invested a lot of time, effort, and prayer into him. And just the fact that he was at church that Sunday morning was a major victory. As I preached Sunday morning, it was abundantly evident to me that he was wrestling with God. God had him hemmed up. After the service, he came to me and said something to the effect of, "Your sermon got to me this morning," and he left. I was pleased to see him return Sunday night. He went right back to his corner. The Spirit of God fell in an awesome way during that Sunday night service. As the altar call was winding down, I felt impressed by the Lord to brag a little on the pastor and his wife. As I finished what I had to say and started to return to my seat, to my surprise, he stood up and began to speak. He said, "I second everything you said about the preacher." Then he said, "I think he's a heck of a guy." Again, he didn't say heck. But although he didn't use appropriate English, I've never heard a more genuine expression of love. He immediately knew he didn't express himself the right way. He dropped his head in embarrassment and said something to the effect of, "Well, I'm sorry I didn't use the right words. I don't have a good vocabulary and I don't know how to talk. But I wanted everybody to know how much I love the preacher." And I'm proud to say that after the benediction, the majority of the church made their way to this man. Nobody scolded him. Nobody belittled him. They just loved him. And as he departed, he again told me, "Your sermon got to me." Much to my joy, he came back Monday night and assumed his seat in the corner. The Spirit of God fell again. Again, the battle raged. As he left, he looked at me and said, "You almost got me tonight." I told him, "Don't wait too late." The scenario repeated itself Tuesday night. He and God did battle again. Again, he told me, "You almost got me tonight." Wednesday night was the last night of the revival services. He was back in his corner. He and God battled again. But this time, the ending would be different. We didn't make it very far into the altar call portion of the service when he surrendered the battle to God. God broke him like a number 2 pencil, and he started making his way to the altar. I looked at the pastor and I said, "There you go." And he knelt at the altar with him and led his friend to faith in Jesus Christ. I spoke with the pastor the next morning, and he told me, "My friend said tell you that you cracked a tough nut last night." Oh, but of course I didn't do anything. It was the Lord. Now, I said all of that to ask this. What would have happened to that man's eternal soul if some self-righteous brother or sister had taken it upon themselves to school him in proper etiquette when speaking in the church? Most likely, he would probably still be lost and on his way to hell today. I'm glad they didn't hold a lost, hell-bound sinner to Christian standards. They had enough of the grace of God about them to let a sinner be a sinner and let God do the fixing. Yes, there is acceptable and unacceptable conduct, but I think there may be a lesson in there somewhere for us good Christian brothers and sisters to learn. Hey, and for the record, I think he's a heck of a guy. Lord, as we've listened to this devotion today, would you remind us that you're God and we're not? And Lord, that the best thing we can do sometimes, Lord, is just to speak when you say speak, do what you say do. But God, then take our hands off of a situation or a person and let you be God. A sinner will be a sinner. We can't change them, but God, you can. Help us to remember that today, Lord. And I ask this in your name. Amen.